Hi, welcome to Overlanding from Home. My name is Anton. I'm an avid overlander, lover of nature, and humanitarian by heart. The past while, I've always been interested in the outdoors, and I want to hear about other people's experiences and their rigs. Yes, the big rigs, the small rigs, everything they've done to design them and how they plan it. I hope you enjoy listening. Let's find out who today's guest is.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Comment ça va?
Oh no, don't go there. All I've got after that is mon petit facochère. Je t'aime, mon petit facochère.
I'm pretty sure I'll pass.
No, I love you, my little warthog.
Well, blessings to you too, good lad.
Yes.
Did you manage to find a quiet corner of the house amongst the chaos?
We'll see how quiet it is once the toddlers aim for it with intent.
When they get tunnel vision, there's no end.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to host webinars and things. There's my realization through this is everybody's saying, "Oh, it's great. We get to work from home and just watch Netflix. How easy is that?"
Good luck with that.
No, I have a full-time job. I'm trying to resurrect a bit of a writing career, and I'm running a daycare.
It's nuts, dude. My office is a nightmare. I'm literally walking over things. I got cables all over the place. I was like a Somali the other day, getting a LAN cable straight from the router into the Apple TV, so we got decent internet on the TV because we don't have the local DSTV and stuff. And I was like a real Somali, out the window, through a pipe, down the outside of the house, back in through the back of the wall. It was awesome. It's been amazing. I paid $200 for a guy to come to my house to recrimp the LAN cable that wasn't working, and I couldn't exactly take it out. So I ended up paying more than what I should have, but it's working, and I'm happy, and my daughter's happy, and that's really all that counts.
Yeah. How old's she again?
She's 6 and going on 24. She's done 4 degrees and masters in home killing parents, and how to scream the loudest, and I don't want. And I love it to bits. I couldn't change that for the world.
My daughter's been managing the Middle Eastern peace process for some time now.
Oh, wonderful.
And that's why it's in the state it's in.
Well, listen, the oil price is down, which means fuel is cheaper. So I think she's doing something right.
Well, she's sounds discord, chaos. Everywhere she goes.
All right, so let me just start here. I think we've had our opening start. So folks, listen, thanks very much for signing in and listening again. Today is an epic one for me. I've always been, since I've known Peter Allison, who is the guest today, I'll read a bit of his bio and one or two little things, but this is going to be a different part of a podcast than what we normally have. So Peter, if you don't mind, I'm just going to kick off from here. Is that a good start for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So folks, Peter left Australia, aiming to travel for a year, and I think that went a little bit pear-shaped because he was wanting to study law and went on a totally different side of it. And for 26 years, he's been in the safari industry, causing trouble, creating problems for bosses, I'm pretty sure, but has incredible stories. He's written 2 books, both with great headings, because once you listen to this chat, you're going to understand, you're going to want to read the book. So go and support the guy. He's busy working on a 3rd book, like you've just heard. He's trying to resurrect a writing industry that I think is now coming back, obviously, because of the virus issues. One of the books is called "Whatever You Do, Don't Run." And let me just go back and have a look. A picture on that book is where is it? I actually went onto Amazon. There's a lion on it, which is pretty awesome. And the other book is there's a truck going past. As slow as it can, obviously. All right. Well, now we know first gear works. And the second book is Don't Look Behind You. And there's 2 options there. You can have either on Kindle or paperback. One has crocodile, and the other one has a elephant that looks a lot bigger than you, Peter. So I hope I got all of that right. Is that correct?
Yeah, elephants are bigger than me.
Well, I've seen the size of your head. I'm not so sure.
Thank you.
that is definitely a complete joke. And since you've unfortunately departed from the African shores, you are now daddy daycare in back in England.
Yes, so it's funnily enough a country I never imagined living in or settling in. I was
Really?
the rare Australian that didn't come here straight after school or university to do bar work this side. As you pointed out, I actually ended up in Africa at 19, and that's bar work was what I did, but I did it in a game reserve in the Sabi Sands in the epic year of 1994, which is, of course, a huge one for South Africa.
Yes. Yes, that was a big turning point for us, and so many things obviously had changed. So you came at a very opportunistic time, and I recall, and if you can just come back and tell me, please, that because I don't want to get it wrong. The first story you told me was how you met some chap, and he said, "I need to get this vehicle from here to somewhere in Botswana," and you ended up just something like the next day. Is that right? Taking it and disappearing?
Yeah, so that was I'd worked in the bush for a little while at that point, and I'd started guiding, and I thought, oh, I know what I'm doing here. I remember a friend had actually said to me, who'd come to visit, and he said, and this is a South African friend
Yes.
that I knew from Australia, and he said, "Oh, this is really nice, isn't it? But it's not particularly wild, is it?" And I was a bit flabbergasted by that. I looked and said, "But Rich, look, there's a warthog. That's pretty wild." I'd come from Sydney, and so to me, the Sabi Sands seemed wild. And I'd be on my game drive, and I'd be saying, "Guys, I've got one of my daughter Ingwe," because rangers, as they call them there, love to use a bit of local lingo. And I
Yes.
go, "My daughter Ingwe, he's walking by the signpost for Exeter near the power lines at the junction of the Dam Road." And everything you mentioned was man-made, and you could
Yes.
always see the hand of man. And obviously, once I got to Botswana, I looked around and went, "Oh, I see Richard's point." But the way that I got there was just looking for that, saying, "Well, he's provoked me now. I better go and find out what this is." And I wandered into the office of a safari company, asked if they might have any jobs going, and a guy who remains a friend, Chris Kruger, who's got a very distinctive voice, said, "Sure, we got a job. Can you drive a car?" You want a job. It's like if you'd asked if I could ride a camel, I would have said, "Sure, of course I can." And I could sort of drive a car by then. He didn't tell me it was a game drive vehicle and that it was in Johannesburg and that I had to drive it to the Okavango Delta. And I'd never been to Johannesburg before. And I'd never been to the Okavango Delta before. And that was my job interview, was getting one of your favorite things, a 4x4 vehicle.
Yes.
From Joburg. And of course, it had no mirrors. I mean, a rear view mirror would have just shown me the back row of seats. It had no roof. It didn't even have a canopy on it.
Sorry, Peter, what time of year was this?
It was summer. And the reason I know that is not just the sunburn that I got, but it also absolutely bucketed with rain on me at one point, which means in Botswana it was summer, which is when, and it had the fold down windscreen, which I'd folded up.
But which was pointless anyway.
Yeah. Well, it kept the hornbills out of my teeth. But yeah. And once it started raining, I don't know why I decided to put the wipers on, but they changed the angle of the windscreen, and so the things were flexing and straining until one just flung off, and somehow in the slipstream came straight up over and whacked me in the forehead. It was one of those journeys where you can
found it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's like another bloody hornbill. One was a wiper. Yeah, but the I got into Maun, and I thought, okay, job interview done, and somebody then told me, "Oh no, you're going to the most remote camp in the Okavango Delta. You're not done yet. And I had another day's driving ahead of me. And I was given a staff member that they swore knew the way with the ominous name of Dorcas.
Oh, nice.
The Dorcas did not know the way, but this was, I think, my real introduction to Botswana began then, where I had to drive through a series of villages with names like Etsa 6, Etsa 12, for some reason, and you'd know these places now.
Yes.
You've done that road up to Shikawi.
Correct.
And I don't know if it's still the case, but you put your vehicle onto a barge that was hand pulled.
So it's not hand pulled anymore. Now they've, I would say now for the last bunch of years, they have two ponts on there, two barges that are motored. But, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but for some random reason, they've decided to build a bridge, which grinds me because there's no need for that. I mean, it just gives such an atmosphere when you climb on a barge and you're just sitting there for 20 minutes, going across. Anyway, sorry, I'm interrupting. So you made it across.
Yeah, made it across. And then, of course, from there, it was all dirt roads, which was no great impediment because the tar road had not been that spectacular. It would have suited drunk driving with all of the swerving and weaving you had to do. Something I also discovered was a bit of a national pastime in Botswana was drunk driving. But
it's a common affair. And in fact, you would have to be drunk to drive those roads properly, I think is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not leaning and lurching all over the wheel, and you definitely don't want to be going in a straight line. Anyway, so once I was on those sand roads, and I thought I knew how to drive a four-wheel drive. And again, being summer, that sand is hot, so it's looser, and it sucks at your tires like it's a Kardashian. And I'm really hoping that most of your listeners don't get that reference. It just,
excuse the pun.
Yeah, so you're in trying to grind your way through it, and of course Dorcas was looking around. I thought, she's looking at this place with as much wonder as I am. I don't believe she's been here before. And she basically, eventually we passed some kid. And she I didn't speak any Setswana, and I was delighted to learn she did. So she had some use. She obviously asked him which way was it to Duba, was the camp we were going to, and he said, "Oh yeah, give me a lift." So in he jumped. We drove, and we ended up in some little village. And he said, and he jumped out, and I said, "Well, where's he going?" He said, "Oh no, he doesn't know the way, but his uncle knows the way." And so his uncle comes and gets in and starts showing me the way along these dirt tracks. And we got to another village. He jumps out. I said, "Well, where's he going?" He says, "No, he doesn't know the way, but his friend does." His friend gets in, "I'm a taxi." And, after a full day of being the local taxi service, and I really just didn't know what my other option was, one of them made a mistake, and we actually found the camp.
Oh.
And that was it. Then I lived in the Okavango for years because I couldn't find my way out.
Well, that's a good start, because if you look where Duba Camp is, it literally is in the middle of nowhere, and there are no direct roads, and it's an amazing place. I think now it's flooded, right? I mean, now with the amount of rains that have come down this year, and no one's there to see it, which is quite sad. It's quite interesting.
The people who operate it don't like this, but its nickname in the industry is now scuba planes.
Oh, that's true. You could just float down there. Well, if you didn't get hit by between the crocs and the hippos, and
yeah,
you could. I have driven that road. Yes, I drove it last year for a humanitarian trip, which I did with you guys, and it was amazing. That road, I think, removed all my fillings out my teeth. It completely disjointed my back. I may have lost a leg from the amount of corrugation on the road. It's a really gnarly road. So once you get over the pont, all the way down to past Soronga, it is, in fact, the road after Soronga up to Gundigwe is better than that beginning road, and they don't change tire pressures there. There's no sense of understanding about tire pressure. They just drive the same thing and rattle their teeth, and and tie everything down. So it's an amazing part of the world. I love it. I completely love it.
I mean, that's just it. You were describing the various injuries that did to you, and I was about to say, and yet you loved it, didn't you? Because
Completely. And I think this is what excites me about chatting to you, is that there are just endless stories. I mean, I know that you've traveled quite a bit, and I don't know. I'm going to ask you a few questions just to understand. I know that you have a young family, so I don't think you've traveled a lot with with your kids. I know there's a very big one I want to ask you. So you are definitely not a vegan. You eat meat like most real African men, but your wife doesn't. Now, how is that challenging when you overlanding, or you out, you know, in a vehicle, or going in through? What do you take to cook? How do you move it around? I mean, I know that you don't overland, so this is not about overlanding per se. It's about the experiences that you've had, and in the African bush, which I think everyone should hear. Has it been a major challenge?
it's where it's a challenge is not so much cooking. I mean, there's the greatest fallback is of course pasta.
Correct.
Pasta in a jar or tin of sauce is works anywhere. And the great thing with that is you make pasta, you throw in the sauce, and then I can throw in some chopped up sausage or something like that, and boerewors, whatever it is, which you can cook on the side. It's actually
Yes.
really easy. It's less of a challenge than you imagine. Where it is a challenge is places like Namibia. And about a year and a half ago, so the kids then were 2.5 and 6 months old, and we did 10 days around Namibia, barely saw a sealed road. And of course, Namibians are a unique breed, maybe not so unique, much like Argentinians, where chicken is considered a vegetable. And,
that's a first for me. I haven't heard that one.
If you've eaten chicken, that's a salad. And when Prue would announce that she was a vegetarian, you could just see them looking at me as like, does that make you gay?
So why did you marry your husband?
And I think no, she just and of course basically the vegetarian option in Namibia is they cook the same dish and then they just move the plate, the slab of steak onto their plate.
Yes.
And serve it with disdain, and the blood oozing into the potato that they just served my wife Prue. But there's you always get past it, and once you're in lodges and so on, they cater pretty well to it. It's less of a novelty for them, dealing with the international visitors they do. But on the road, it's you pasta, those sorts of sauces, rice, and then the next day is perhaps rice with pasta.
Yeah.
And not a lot of variety, but not a lot of difficulty.
No, it does sound a lot easier than I did think. I mean, obviously, I've been trying to. I won't say obviously, so, but I've been moving away from eating so much meat to eating a little bit less meat and more on the veggie side. And I mean, I've created a few wonderful ways. And the one thing is obviously I have a fridge and all that stuff. But having carrying veggies instead of meat, when you open your fridge, your mate's like, "Dude, are you okay? What's going on? We just passed a butchery. What's the problem? And you try and explain. I'm trying not to go crazy on the meat side. I want to experience something different, and that's what Africa is. It's about experiences. And I think writing a book. Tell me a little bit about the book. Well, hang on a second. So you first and foremost are a very a eco tourist guide. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, if you're in South Africa, they tend to use the term like ranger, when that's actually should be reserved for people who work for the parks board and actually patrol the parks. We're jeep jockeys. I was a safari guide, and basically what we do is this: poor scientists go out there, do years of research, and write up their PhD, and then we distill it into a punchline. Keep the tourists happy. But it is the importance of that role, or the way that I've always seen it, is we're actually trying to get them to go from a good guide isn't just there saying, look at this amazing place I live in. A good guide is like a matchmaker, and he's trying to get these tourists who might be from Southern Africa, they might be from anywhere in the world,
yes,
and make them fall in love with the place, because it's only once they've fallen in love with it that they'll want to protect it. I mean, I don't go around trying to save ballet because I give zero poops about it.
Well, your daughters might say something quite different to that.
No, my daughter's a thug. She's 3.5 now, and she spends most of the day beating me up.
Bless her.
I'm not even letting her win.
Oh,
she's mastered the nut shot. But anyway, back to the whatever the hell I was talking about. What was I talking about?
Oh, geez. Traveling. Rangers. The difference between Rangers.
Yes. In terms of the role is to get people enthused about the environment, and then when you're talking about conservation, there's so much bad news out of there, and conservation's like medicine. Everybody knows it's good for them, but nobody wants to undergo a surgical procedure or whatever it might be. So to get people to take medicine, you've got to coat it in a lot of honey. You've got to sweeten that pill. So I always found that as a guide, if I could entertain the people, get them laughing, and it wasn't dumbing it down at all. There's a lot of science in what we talk about, but if they're enjoying themselves and they're actually having a true holiday, vacation, whatever word you prefer, then they kind of say, that's a place I want to go back to. And every time they come back, every time somebody spends money going on safari, that's telling a government that the land has value as it is. Land has value with wild animals living in it, because our competitors are not other safari operators. That's on the smallest level. The real competitors are agriculture and mining. They want the same land that we're on.
Yes.
And so the more value we can give to that land, and the value is not just the revenue it generates, it's employing from rural communities. That's the thing that isn't spoken about. Employment's spoken about, but that you employ from rural communities who otherwise those people would be sucked into the city and looking for work there. And we all know that leads to higher crime rates in the cities. It leads to greater desperation and poverty and disease, even because they're in crowded, unsanitary conditions. So these places in the bush that are actually employing from these rural communities are actually having a huge positive social impact as well.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah,
I know. I mean, it's very true. Yeah.
So that's I do. It's I'm not saying that safari going on safari immediately qualifies you to enter through the pearly gates or whatever it might be, but you're an immediate philanthropist just by visiting any place. And it doesn't matter what budget you go in there. When you visit a national park, you drive into Moremi National Park, or you go into some of these Namibian national parks that get 10 visitors a year.
Yeah.
You're now 10% of the reason that place stays a national park.
Yeah.
And that's a really important role. So the people listening to this that love their 4x4ing, they are a huge part. I mean, they so often pioneer these areas that later on the luxury lodges come into. They play a huge part in conservation just by visiting these places, by showing interest in them. So thank you to all of your listeners.
It's it's such a big deal. And you're right. There's always a big pull and a big drive between industries, and the tourism industry plays a massive role, because people that come and have a good experience with or without, you, for example, they really, they go back and they tell their friends, and then there's another 10 possibilities of those people coming to travel towards that same country and have those same experiences. And it just goes such a long way. I'm busy doing a bit of a project with a company called Choose Africa. And the launch is actually tonight, funny enough, at 5:30 South African time. You can go on my channels and you'll see it. And you guys are involved in it. I don't know if you know about it, Peter, but it's basically telling tourists, when you come on a tour safari, the money doesn't go towards only towards the lodges. It goes towards all these other initiatives, and that's exactly what you're talking about. It goes towards the support for anti-rhino poaching, the guys like myself that do humanitarian work, that the people in villages and in these rural areas that make little beads and do grass work. It goes towards them, and that's what the lodges should be known for more. Going to view a lion is fantastic, but supporting the local community is more important. And I think that is something that you really draw people into, which is why this chat is so exciting to me, because those stories that you have are not forgotten. I mean, I've never spoken to anyone that's been on a tour with you, but I can pretty much sure if I phone them and say, "Do you remember this guy? Can you tell me a story?" They'll waffle off five. And
Yeah.
I think that is more important, is the memory that they tell everybody.
Yeah, and it's also getting them out. I mean, there's been a strange shift in the safari industry, and it's a regrettable one. And it might actually change after this whole COVID thing is done, where everybody started pursuing. And again, if we go back to '94 when I started, South Africa was emerging from being an international pariah. So foreign tourists hadn't visited in any great numbers.
Yeah.
And South Africans had this great way of doing things, which was unique to themselves. They'd been in isolation for so long. And people arrived and they'd be given a rusk in the morning and they'd go, "What's this?" And they'd be looked at blankly. So, "Well, it's a rusk. What do you do with it? Is that how you pronounce rock here?"
Where do you put it?
Yeah. And of course, there's blank stares yet again. And it's what I call the Rodriguez effect, which is South Africans who think that something that's common to them is common to everybody else in the world.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's all but gone now.
Yeah.
But it was this thing of course, you know what a rusk is. I clearly don't, because I'm querying it. But so there was this wonderful moment, and that great South African sense of humor. And I mean, I love some of the Afrikaans descriptions of things. And that was all unique, and people were having great fun. But then everybody started chasing, they thought that luxury was bling.
Yeah.
So they started competing on bling instead of the real reason. Nobody's flown halfway around the world for a chandelier. They've come because they don't have elephants or even warthogs wandering by in their backyard. That's the luxury, and the luxury is space. And that's what people are pursuing. And then it also got really rote. It's a game drive in the morning, game drive in the afternoon. And you spoke about people's memories, remembering stories. Their own stories are the most treasured things, and they don't get that if they sit in a four-wheel drive the whole time with somebody showing them things. They've got to get out, they've got to touch things, smell and taste. And then, once they've had their own moments, if you see a herd of elephants, get people out of the vehicle. They're within touching distance of it.
Yeah.
They're out of the vehicle. And when you spoke about an elephant being bigger than me, an elephant's bigger than you in a Land Rover. When you're in a Land Rover, when you're standing there, an elephant is enormous. They grow that much. They grow really fast the moment you step onto the ground. And then you look, you are huge. And that's the response, is to make people feel alive, to their nostrils flaring twice the size they've ever been before.
Yeah.
It's that moment, you have that adrenaline dump. It's roller coasters for grown-ups. And it's also, again, that's the moment they get back and they say, "That was extraordinary. That was amazing. I've got to tell my friends to come here. You've just won. You've just won. You've just saved an animal's life, because more people are going to come and visit." As I say to it, I now work for a company called Natural Selection that you've referenced. We've helped support some of your endeavors. And we have a reservations team. And I always say to them, every time you don't close the booking, a baby impala dies.
Oh, I hope you don't sleep tonight.
I'll even sometimes go to them as if they go, no, they didn't confirm that book. It's like, why do you hate baby impalas, Ashley?
That poor baby hippo. Like, what do you? Oh, you poor person. That's gnarly. Oh, shame, man. That's pretty hectic. But oh, I hope you sleep well at night, Peter. Really.
No, I've got 2 toddlers.
No, oh, that's also true. That's called payback, maybe. You know, you start for going lovely. I think
everybody else joined me in sleeplessness.
you know, I grew up in the Drakensberg in the mountains, and my wife firmly believes I was brought up in the bush by wolves, and we were not caught. Where we were, my daughter and I, she loves this overlanding thing with me, and we were supposed to do another humanitarian trip below Thule Block, and we were supposed to leave the day of the lockdown actually, and I pulled out. I postponed it, didn't pull out. I postponed it until things chill. I would imagine it's going to be August, September side time of the year. But she was just as gutted as I was, and we were sitting outside on the stoop about 2-3 months ago, and we were picking up these little things and putting them in our mouths, and my wife comes out. She goes, "What are you two doing?" And my daughter picks one up. She goes, "Look, Mommy, we're eating ants. Do you want one?" And she puts it in her mouth. And my wife just like, oh, I can't, you two really. And she just storms inside and just those are the type of things that it's good to do. It's okay to eat ants. They're like mapani worms. It's just a lot less protein. And
I've been to a restaurant in Colombia that serves nothing but ants.
I was in Colombia at the end of August. I was actually north of Colombia. I wasn't in Bogota. I was in Barranquilla. Sorry, at the end of January. So if I had known, I would have tried to get there. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'd have to look up which town it was in. I went to many. But yeah, so yeah, they actually say that it's a thing called entomophagy, is the eating of insects.
Yes.
And that is one of the ways forward for humanity to stop us stripping the world of so many resources. We know there's a locust plague up in East Africa right now.
That's right.
That is protein. That's protein right there. That's abundant protein. And if we could convince certain rapacious nations to go in there with nets instead of trawling the oceans, that would save a lot of animals' lives and possibly ours. I mean, I think you're talking about conservation. It should be on everybody's mind right now. If you consider that all of these lockdowns we're going through, all of this massive spike in unemployment globally is because somebody needed a bowl of bat soup or persecuted a pangolin.
Yeah.
We're exactly sure it does seem to be related to pangolins and bats. And
they're trying to prove it, but I mean, and I'm sorry to interrupt. I was chatting with my cousin yesterday, and what they're saying is that a virus from a bat mixed with a pig at the right time was transferred coronavirus to a human in a fish market in Wuhan, China. Now that sentence in itself is, what do you say? I mean, ambulance, really.
You don't have to love animals to have an interest in conservation. And it's actually, there's a talk that I give, which is conservation for people who hate animals. And of course, it's never attended by people who hate animals, but it's about the importance of expressing to those that are just disinterested in wildlife or think that conservation is a folly, how important it is no matter who you are. So I'm now in an urban part of the UK. Thank you, South African Home Affairs.
Yeah.
And looking around, and this couldn't be more removed from megafauna. I mean, the last bear in the UK was, I think they know the date, it was killed in the 1500s or something.
Sure.
The largest carnivore still here is the badger. in the whole of the British Isles. So, wolves are long gone. So there's not even living memory. There's not generational memory of life with animals. But everybody here should be deeply invested in the continued existence of elephants. And the reason I say it, I'm grabbing elephants, they're charismatic, but there was an amazing realization back in the 1960s by a biologist with the unfortunate surname of Peto or Pedo, I don't know how you say it.
Yeah.
Dr. Richard Peto, that giant animals, whales, elephants, or whatever, their cells are no bigger than ours, but the number of cells in their body is therefore enormous. Yet, when a whale washes up on a beach, it's not riddled with tumors. In fact, you don't find them. And similarly, elephants, through zoo anecdote, they're like, elephants die of everything but cancer. How are they avoiding it?
Yeah.
And until 2017, no, so it's 2018, we didn't really have a clue. And it was actually, as is often the case, a great discovery is made by somebody operating out of their field. And it was not a zoologist that figured out, but a Mormon pediatric oncologist out of Salt Lake City in Utah,
which
read about this.
Mormons.
Yeah, and he read about this, and he went to a traveling circus. His name is Dr. Joshua Schiffman, and he said, "Do you mind if I draw blood from one of your elephants?" And they, I don't know if they even checked his credentials, but they let him. And he took it back to the lab and he researched it. And there's a protein called P53, and we have 2 varieties of it in our blood. And we know that when tumors form, as they do all day, every day in our bodies, P53 attacks them, and a number of them, and it's quite successful.
Yeah.
So we got the 2 varieties. He looked at the elephant blood, and at this point, he's found more than 30 varieties and counting. And off the back of that, somebody out of Santa Fe in New Mexico looked at another aspect of their blood and found that they have a completely unrelated compound that tackles leukemia as it develops. So it's not that elephants don't get cancer.
Yes.
In fact, are getting cancer all day, every day. Every elephant right now is developing a tumor. But to evolve the great size they had to have really efficient ways of fighting it because there's so many cells in their body.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, off the back of that research, somebody looked at dassies, hyraxes, that we know shared an ancestor with elephants, and they don't have these compounds. So the compounds came with size, and we now understand, and people are looking more interestedly at whales, is how are they doing it? They must have extraordinary ways of tackling cancers because there's so many different varieties. And we now understand that to get great size, you need to have extraordinary ways of defeating cancer. And these things have all evolved separately. Hippos, rhinos, whales, great white sharks don't get cancer. And it's extraordinary. All of these animals out there that we seem intent on wiping out have got the cures that we are so desperate for. There won't be a single person listening to this that hasn't been affected by cancer.
Sure.
That doesn't know somebody, hopefully hasn't lost anybody.
Directly or indirectly, you're right, yeah.
Yeah. And if you consider that just over 100 years ago, more people in World War I died from infections than died from bullets. So let's say modern medicine's a little over 100 years old.
Penicillin,
life
is medicine that was bottled.
Yeah. So life on Earth has been experimenting for 3.2 billion years, give or take 1 or 2, give or take a decade or so. Every species we lose there's been experimentation and failure, experimentation and failure, experimentation and failure. And we're not looking at end results. We're looking at an ongoing experiment with every species we observe. But we are pegging our 100 years of work against their 3.2 billion years. Every species we lose is like burning down a laboratory that's been going for billions of years before you've received the results. That's what we're losing. So whether you care about animals, you should care about them carrying on and living in the wild as they do.
It's completely true. And I'm, I've obviously experienced elephants, and there's a massive difference between experiencing elephants behind a cage and in the open. And I believe that there's two types of elephants in the SADC region. I know that Botswana is having a massive challenge from elephants, and they're very clever. And elephants play a massive role to me. I'm probably changing the logo on my for my work to an elephant logo because of the respect I have for elephants, and in fact, and for baobab trees. I mean, they're completely random, but they're huge, long, huge, big parts of the African environment, and they've been around for plenty years, and they've lasted, and they've coped. By the way, elephants don't eat meat, so I'm just letting leaving that with you, that elephants are also vegan. I'm sure your wife may enjoy that.
Yeah. Yes. Oh yeah. No, she's a big fan of the vegetarian animals.
I'm sure. Listen, Peter, we can carry on doing this for another 3 hours. I think we both have a day to start, and I really want to thank you for the time and effort that you've put into this. We can carry on doing this for a lot longer, and there are so many stories between the two of us, and I really respect the work that you've done. I honor you as a writer and bringing life back to an environment that is known for glamping. In your industry, the people that come to yours and the likes of lodges are people that we need, and I really respect the fact that you try and drive them to support you guys, and in turn support the people like myself and the humanitarian work that I do.
No, well, I'm a huge fan of the work you do. I should have expressed that earlier. Really inspired by what you do, and the genuine passion you take it, and also you spoke about the bone rattling things. When you set off on that trip, I just saw the obstacles and you just saw the opportunities, which is a fantastic attitude you take into the really important work you do. So I salute you, sir.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm trying to do more, and I'm hoping to work with you guys again. I'm sure there is another opportunity in another region to help some more kids, and I wish to see you back in Cape Town without our nonsense government playing games and thinking of themselves. And I wish you and your girls and your wife good health and happiness in the UK.
Thanks, Anton, and we will speak again soon.
Absolutely. Have a blessed day. Cheers.